right. We're
Way
back.
back.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, 2022.
Holy cow, I cannot believe it's 2022.
Yeah, time flies.
And thank goodness Benjamin Button's here and is going backwards. So it's kind of like 19, when was I graduated? 1982. So I'm kind of about at the 18 years old level.
Jeez, you graduated in 1982? I was born in 83. I'm sorry, I said that out loud.
That's just lovely.
Sorry.
All right. So,
Sorry.
All right. So I believe it or not, I've been getting calls regularly, of course, since the whole COVID-19 crisis or pandemic or whatever, and specifically about my employer is requiring that I get vaccinated or I get terminated and things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
what's and I mean literally at least once a week. And
wow. Yeah. Wow.
So
yeah.
Interestingly enough,
do those fall under like is it civil, personal injury? Like where does that fall?
Well, it's none of the
like
above.
Class action. Yeah. Okay.
It would be constitutional law.
Okay.
Where that would fall under, and that's just not my forte.
Okay.
But here's the interesting thing. Actually, today, January 7th, the United States Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments on whether the OSHA vaccine mandate is basically constitutional. As far as I know, it's 11 o'clock. They could be hearing from the government and the plaintiffs, the people who have sued the government to say that it's not constitutional, and we as employers should not have to implement the vaccine mandate, and we as employees should not have to be vaccinated pursuant to OSHA's regulation. And of course, OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and their job's to regulate business safety. All right, so interesting. Again, they're hearing it, which on an expedited basis because, and they're set to rule, I should say, soon because it takes effect, I believe, Monday.
Okay.
So that's why they're hearing it, in an expedited situation. Now, just FYI, there have been federal judges out there in different locales, Texas and otherwise, that have ruled that the mandates basically were unconstitutional and overreached OSHA's authority. So that's kind of where it's at. And so let's briefly, it says, and here's, interestingly enough, with every action, there's typically or often a negative reaction. So for every good that can come from something, there's also a bad that can come from something.
Yeah, sure.
So, and reading it says, in the short term, if the case, the case will determine whether millions of Americans, workers, have to get vaccinated in order to keep their jobs. Right, that's kind of what the decision is. But in the long term, and the ETS, which is basically short for the Emergency Temporary Standards, so the OSHA has put in this emergency order, so to speak. It's not to last forever. So ETS, but it says in the long term, the ETS, if the ETS is struck down, then federal OSHA's authority to regulate workplaces on a national scale will be significantly undermined. And so there's always two sides to every story. One, if the Supreme Court shoots it down, meaning the mask mandate was overreaching by OSHA. Well, what happens the next time when some other issue comes about that's not pandemic related?
Right.
Is the OSHA's authority going to be less than, say, what it was before the ruling?
Like so the whole slippery slope thing.
I don't know.
If we're going to throw this one out, they'll all get thrown out and their power will be completely undermined.
That's always the argument. All right.
Yeah.
So that's the government's position as to, well, if you throw out this ETS, then you're kind of open up a Pandora of issues that will be litigated in the future. Well, and we'll know soon enough. All right. Yeah. So Let's see.
Where is this being decided? Do you know?
Where?
Yeah.
Where's what?
The case, or this particular.
Oh, I don't. The Florida, the United States Supreme Court case at issue. Oh, I don't know the name of it. You can.
Oh,
Google
is it
that.
Oh, this is federal. So this is the federal.
Oh, this is the United States Supreme Court.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like the thing in Mississippi we were talking about.
No, this is the big dog.
Okay.
The big 9. Yeah, okay. This is all 9 of them.
Gotcha.
Let's see what it says. All right, so, and here's the just so you know, the U.S. Solicitor General, he's the lawyer who argues these types of cases in front of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And he says, according to the solicitor, the OSHA requirements, or OSHA is allowed to issue ETSs, which again are emergency temporary standards, when the agency determines that it is necessary to protect employees from a grave danger resulting from exposure to physically harmful agents or new hazards. So that's his position, that OSHA has the authority to do this if employees are subjected to exposure to physically harmful agents or new hazards.
Okay.
Right. The plaintiffs or the individuals that are stating that OSHA overstepped their bounds or their boundaries and did not have authority, their arguments are basically this, and I'll read the 3. The risk of infection, hospitalization, and death faced by unvaccinated workers do not qualify as a grave danger. Vaccination is the most effective and efficient workplace control available, the government said. So they're saying that the risk of infection, hospitalization, and death is not grave danger. All right. Well, okay. And the government says, yes, it is. Number 2, the standard is not necessary because some subset of individuals might be safe from transmission due to natural immunity of those previously infected. All right, so they're saying, look, I've got natural immunity. I don't need a vaccine. Basically, the Lord gave me a vaccine.
Right.
So that's the second argument. And finally, which to me is pretty substantial, OSHA lacks the authority to issue the occupational standards related to corona because the risk from exposure exists outside the workplace. That one's pretty strong.
Ooh.
So you're saying
that one's more like
you're protecting me and my compadres here at work from coronavirus, but we can get coronavirus outside of the workplace.
Right.
That one's pretty strong.
Whereas, like, the risk of death by forklift mishandling is only at work.
Or if you're, I don't know, you're a chemical plant in Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah, you're not getting exposed to the chemicals outside of work. If you're going to go into
this area of the building, you have to wear a hazmat suit because the risk of you
inside that part of the building.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So that one's pretty strong.
Ooh,
whereas
that one seems pretty.
I know that one's tough.
Let's save the best for last.
Us walking out at the Kmart or the Wal, ain't no Kmart, but the Walmart or the Publix or the mall, we don't have really a big risk of contamination from whatever chemicals they're slapping around in Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah, that one seems like to be more. I don't know. That one seems to be the strongest one. The other two,
I agree. That
I think, are arguable, and there's science on both sides, and everybody's got an opinion, and blah blah blah. But I think that last one's kind of I don't know.
And then there's the employers. The employer's objection, it says the cost of administration is significant. The administrative hassles is significant. And here's another big one, which is legit, is right now, it says the current labor shortage, their fear that their unvaccinated employees will just quit and go to work for employees or employers who do not require the vaccine. Because remember, this is 100, you have to have 100 or more employees to under this rule, under this mandate. And that one's pretty significant. I'll just quit.
I think so too.
And go get another job. Now, mind you, in November, 4.5 million people quit their jobs. They called it the second Great Resignation. There was another one at the end of the summer, August, September, where another 4 or 5 million quit. So that's a legit argument.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of people who are looking for jobs, and like literally companies are putting on there like we we promote a safe workplace, and we require that you're vaccinated and blah 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 blah. And people are like,
all right,
I'm not applying.
It's quiz time for Jason.
Oh
all right,
boy.
So under the First Amendment, all right, you feel that, which is the right to freedom of speech. Right? All right. Can your employer regulate your speech?
Yes,
let me be clear. Okay. Not the federal government.
Right.
Not if you're employed by the federal government, but a private employer.
Yeah.
How about this? Can Read and Read regulate the speech of its employees? Can I tell you, you're not allowed to say certain things.
Right. Even at the workplace,
you're not allowed to talk politics, whether you support Biden or Trump or DeSantis or whomever. Outside the workplace as well as inside the workplace, can Read and Read regulate that speech? Because I'm going to translate that into today's topic. Yes.
Outside of the workplace, I would say no.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Look, if I have my employees out there giving the "Let's Go Brandon,"
sure,
and people that are of the Democrat or liberal base who would otherwise hire Read and Read, they may take the position, look, I don't like their politics, I'm going to go with some other law firm.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's consequence
of
reputation.
The First Amendment does not apply to private employers. It applies to government-regulated speech.
And public spaces.
Yeah. To some degree, you can't go into but let's stick with this now. Can Read and Read? Let's say the Supreme Court says that OSHA oversteps its bounds, and the government cannot require businesses to require vaccines. Can Read and Read require its employees, regardless of the Supreme Court's ruling, can Read and Read require its employees to be vaccinated? So the Supreme Court says, OSHA, you overstepped your boundaries. You cannot require Walmart to basically have its employees vaccinated, or you'll fine Walmart, because Walmart has more than 100 employees. I only use them as an example. Take anybody, airline industry, anybody with 100 or more employees. The Supreme Court says you can't require them to have their employees mandated. But
I would think it's private property. The business is itself privately owned, and I think that the answer would be yes, they can. They're going to have to live with the consequences, but I think that the answer is they can, and I think they should be able to. That's opinion-wise, but
okay. Well, again, you're correct. Private. This ruling, just like the First Amendment ruling on free speech, does not apply to private companies. So if Delta Airlines or whomever wants to say, look, for the protection of our passengers and
we're
the protection
only
of
accepting
our staff,
vaccinated flyers or something,
you have to be vaccinated. They can do that. Yeah. And so just so you know, Read and Read does not require vaccinations because, at least Omicron, I think every single person on the face of the planet is going to get that because it appears to be highly contagious. So, but that's fodder for another day. But hopefully 2022, we'll see the end of this. I think I can speak for basically everybody. We're sick of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you feel like it's getting to the place where like enough data has come out that it feels like the flu almost, like it's just enough data has come out, enough information is there. It doesn't feel like
I don't know.
It doesn't feel like the scare has been maintained, right? Like the fear.
I ain't going there. None of my business.
Okay.
Do what you want to do to protect yourself.
Sure.
Anybody in your family. You want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. You want to get boosters, get boosters. If you don't, you don't. That is none of Paul Reed's business. All right. Well, that's kind of it. So just don't go getting your hallelujahs if the Supreme Court comes out and rules that what the government did was unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And now, your employer says, well, I don't care. You still have to
That's a
get
great drawback.
vaccinated.
Yeah, great point. I
Guess
mean,
what?
circle back.
You're
Yeah.
still in the same situation you were before
Yeah.
today.
Yep. Yeah.
So, feel free to call, but that's what you're going to hear. Your private company can require you to get vaccinated or kick you to the curb.
Certainly, and that's what a job market is. That's what what an employee market is. That's all of
All
that.
right.
So that's for.
Other than that, we
Bye.
will see you next Friday. And shout out to Crystal Crawford, which is Jason's wife, because not today, because I have to go to a funeral for Miss Anderson. I love her to death, and God bless. But I will be starting with Crystal, writing my book, my memoirs, and so that's going to be fun. And
she's been talking about it.
We will. We'll let you know.
Are you going to drop any juicy bits on here
once
in a bit? Okay, all right.
And the beauty of this is
don't leak it all.
I have photos, so it's not based on a true story. It freaking is a true story.
Oh boy! All right.
And I got photographs to back up my testimony. All right, so let's get out of town.
Of course, you have proof. You're a lawyer.
I got proof, baby. All right, well, we're out. Have a good weekend, and we will see you next Friday.
Yeah. Bye.